What's up, Justin? Thank you very much for meeting with us today.
Absolutely.
I love the space here. The garage looks freaking awesome.
Thank you.
Big fan of this epoxy floor with your logo in it.
Thanks.
Very cool. So obviously me and you have spent a lot of time together, and most of that is car-related stuff. But I don't know a whole lot about what got you to this point in the car world and, you know, your YouTube career. Why cars? So I want to start off by asking you one simple question.
Okay.
What was your very first car?
My very first car, I had just turned 16, so I barely had my permit to drive. And I was riding to work with my mom where I worked at Shop and Save.
Okay.
That was my first job too. So the car that came up was actually another person that worked there was trying to sell this car, and she was selling it for $300. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna get that car. So I paid $25 a week until I owned my $300 1989 Z24 Cavalier.
Oh, very cool. That's a very interesting story. So 25 a week. Did you ever miss a week?
No.
Very cool. So it was Chevy from the beginning for you then?
From the beginning, which is funny because my whole family was like Chrysler, but
Really?
I was Chevy.
So what color was the Z24?
It was gray and rust.
Okay, the Z24 was a Cavalier or a Beretta? Okay, because the Beretta I think had a
That was a Z26.
Z26. Okay, and it was gray, you said?
Yeah.
2-door or 4-door?
2.
Okay.
Only came in 2-door for the Z24s.
Oh, did it? Yeah, I don't know my Chevy stuff very well.
No, you don't. I'll teach you.
So with that first car, everybody seems to have a memory or a series of memories around that first car, and that's why we started doing this My First Ride kind of interview. So tell me, what is the fondest memory you have with the Z24?
Fondest. Well, let me give a little bit of a background because something I had talked a little bit with John about a couple days ago is a surprising fact about my car history. Up until I was 16 years old, I had zero interest in automobiles. Zero.
Really?
I was not a car kid. So I would play with Legos and, you know, the car stuff like that, but my dad and my brothers and even my sister would go to car shows and go do car event type things, and they were excited to do it. They were excited to see new cars. I couldn't have cared less.
That is interesting.
The second I hit 16, a switch flipped, and I was like, wait a second, I want a car. So I got the car. Then I started literally the day I got it, before I could even drive it, my permit wasn't even active yet. So I couldn't even take this car out. I have the car sitting there. I start ripping out the interior. I start cleaning it. And as I'm tearing it all apart, I'm loving the process. So this is where the obsession was born.
Interesting.
I'm ripping out the interior, and I get this 2 seats out, and I quickly realized that the person I bought this car from really liked milkshakes because there was a lot of it spilled in the interior.
Oh.
So as I took out the seats, I was originally just gonna take out the seats and vacuum, and then I started seeing all this other stuff. I started taking out the center console. I got it down to the bare metal, and I'm scrubbing the carpet. I'm cleaning all this ice cream and stuff off. Then I start thinking, you know, this car's kind of beat. You know, it had 300,000 miles on it. I'm gonna go ahead and start repainting some of this stuff because like the vents and stuff, they were kind of faded and the paint was chipping off. So I was like, I'm gonna paint these things. So I took them, I hit them with primer, I sprayed them red, of course. And suddenly the interior of this car started to look new to me again. So I was like, this is really awesome. What else can I paint? So I just started going crazy, painting the interior of everything. And then shortly, I think it was the first drive. After I got back from the first drive, I noticed there was something like quickly leaking out of the bottom of the car. What is that? Come to find that it was a power steering pump.
Okay.
Just, you know, those things are such high pressure. It's just like shooting.
I've had a similar experience.
I'm like, well, I don't know anything about cars. How do I fix this? And I go underneath it. There was the power steering cooler that ran underneath the car.
Okay.
I hacksawed it apart and put a piece of rubber hose on it, and it was fixed.
Okay.
And I was like, this is it. I want to do this.
You want to be a mechanic fixing Z24s?
No, I want to be my mechanic.
Okay. Okay. So that's when the obsession for cars was born, was with the Z24.
Definitely.
That's interesting. The thing that I like about that story is you talking about how the first thing you did, and I asked you your fondest memory, and your fondest memory happened to be basically ripping it apart to clean it. Right. And for those that are watching that may not know you personally, like I have gotten to over the years, you're very particular with the way that your car looks and the way that your car is cleaned, like extremely. And that makes a lot of sense. And that goes back, many years to when you got your first car. So that's definitely in your brain to be particular about your stuff. I like that. So the Z24, where is that car now?
It's actually kind of funny because I sold that car. I had it at 300,000 miles. I sold it with 350,000 miles on it to a friend of mine that also worked at Shop and Save.
How much did you sell it for?
500.
You made a profit.
So I made a profit only because I put probably 1,000 into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I made a little bit of money on it. He drove it from 350,000 miles to almost 400, and I don't know what he did with it. Now, I want to put emphasis on that because that is an insane amount of miles for a car like that. Those engines were bulletproof, and that really kind of solidifies that, I guess, but I don't know where it went after that.
What engine was in that car?
It was a 2.8 liter V6, but after that year, they updated it to a 3.1 V6, which was the same engine that came in the original Pontiac Grand Prix.
Oh, okay.
It was a solid engine.
Yeah, I didn't know they had a V6 in those. That was probably...
Only the Z24.
Yeah.
Everything else was a 4-cylinder.
Interesting. Do you have any fun police stories? Have you gotten pulled over or anything in that car?
In that car, yeah. So, oh man, the typical Fast and Furious stuff. I went through and thought it would be really cool to like update all the incandescent bulbs to a green neon glow. And
what year was this? Like, was this after the first Fast and Furious then?
No, this was before the first, but it was in that same time frame. This would have been 2001, 2002.
Okay.
After updating all the lighting, like the interior lighting was all green, my license plate lights were green.
Nice.
And I had just gotten my permit to the point where I could drive, but I had to be home by, I believe it was 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
I think it was 11.
I'm racing home from my girlfriend's house at the time. It's already 11 o'clock. I know I'm not making it home, but I'm racing. And I come up over this hill and then down over another peak, and I'm looking in my rear view, and I'm like, I see cop lights. I know what he's doing. He saw those green license plate lights. I was like, crap. So he pulls me over, immediately looks at my permit and says, why are you out past, and I was like, oh, I lost track of time, that typical excuse. He let me go with a warning. He didn't give me a ticket, which was really awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Really awesome, but it was like my own stupid fault, of course, but it doesn't stop there. So I go home. My dad's yelling at me, but the next day I'm like, how can I add more green lights to this thing? Like, it didn't matter that I just got pulled over for it. I was going to do it anyway.
Of course.
That car got me in a lot of trouble, though.
More than that? More than the lights?
No. I mean, yes, but
none that you're willing to share.
Yeah, I don't want to. That's for an off-camera experience.
Okay. All right. We're going to have to talk about that for sure.
Definitely.
What if we want to know just a little bit about what was going on there? Because it sounds like a fun story. I saw your face light up when you started thinking about it.
It was not fun at the time. Stupid things that I did managed to catch the attention of some police officers. And while I knew they were coming, I managed to take a couple turns and turn off my headlights at high speeds and avoid them. I hid from the police.
And, I mean, to be fair, I think most of us pre-20 years old, if you're a car guy, have probably done that at some point. Not that we condone it.
Right.
Of course, that's a dumb thing to do, right?
It is very stupid. Looking back on it, it's one of those things that I could have gotten in so much trouble, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure statute of limitations has passed.
Yeah, that was 20 plus years ago. Yeah, we're good.
So obviously now your entire life is around cars. Your career is built around cars. Your whole audience is built around the car that's behind you here, and a few others. So did that Z24 you said that's where the obsession started. Did that have an impact on what you're doing today, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. So on many levels, the Z24 for me was one of those cars that for most people is a throwaway car. I'll be honest. It had 300,000 miles on it. I paid $300 for it. It didn't have a lot of attractive features. There was a lot of rust on the exterior. The engine was sound though. So I fell in love with it. It's my first car. I want to make it perfect again. And of course, that's what I do with all my cars now. This is where it started. And I had a lot of problems with the car initially with getting it to the point where it was going to be legal.
Yeah.
So it needed a new exhaust. It needed a bunch of suspension work, a lot of stuff to stop rust where it was causing problems. So I had someone else do that. And I paid them somewhere around $800 to do that, which as a 16-year-old kid,
a lot of money.
Extremely hard to get. Yeah. And I realized pretty quickly after that yeah, I just gave them $800 and they did this work, but they did a really, really poor job at it. I'm looking at their work that they did. I could have done better had I had the parts.
Interesting.
So I thought, you know what? From now on, I'm going to save the money and the labor. I'm going to buy the parts. I'm going to do it myself. And shortly after that, I go out one day to start the car. I turn the key and it doesn't do anything. And I'm looking around. I'm like, the lights are on, the radio's on. It's not the battery. So I mean, normally if it's the battery, it will click. If it's the alternator, it will click. It will give you some sign. Nothing like that. It's just not doing anything. So I'm like, what the heck? So enter the internet for me, which is again where the YouTube thing comes from, because now I'm on the internet saying, hey, what's up with this thing? And I see a couple different responses. Some people saying, check this, check that. And it comes down to be the crankshaft position sensor.
Okay.
And I was like, what the heck is that? You know, I'm so new to the car thing. I'm like, what is this? And the guy tells me it's basically a sensor that tells, you know, the car that it needs to start at some point. And it's located inside of the oil pan. So I have to drop the oil pan and pop this sensor out and put it in a new one. The sensor was $20. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. So I go out there and do it. Then right afterwards, the car starts right up and everything's awesome. I feel like I have just cured cancer.
Yeah.
It was the best feeling in the world. And I'm like, I need more of this. So from that point forward, I was just literally everything was me. I was going to do it myself.
That's cool. Yeah, there's definitely a satisfaction if you're a car guy, especially when car's not running and you do something and it comes back to life.
Yep.
I love that. Very cool. Obviously, we've got your ZR1, C7 ZR1 Corvette behind you, which is a phenomenal car. How many were there between the Z24 and the car that's sitting here now?
20 plus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've owned a lot of vehicles, some great, some not so great.
Give me the most not so great, and then we'll move on to talking about this beast.
Well, other than the 89 Z24, that was not fantastic. But other than that, at some point I owned a Chevy Lumina.
Okay.
That was going to be my winter car. And it was so not great that I owned that car for about 2 weeks before I sold it.
Wow.
Because I was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't drive this thing in the winter while I have this awesome car just sitting here, you know? So I couldn't do it. I sold it.
What was the awesome car that was just sitting there when you had the Lumina?
Oh, man. I knew you were going to ask that.
Well,
it was awesome for me at the time.
Yes, that's what we want to know.
This is going to literally destroy my internet presence. So I had a 2000 Chrysler Sebring.
Okay.
It was an LXI. It was the one made by Mitsubishi. It wasn't technically a Chrysler, but that was my Fast and Furious period. I will try to get some pictures to John to put in here.
Please do. Did you have vertical doors?
Yes.
Did you really?
Oh, God. So I had vertical
Underglow?
doors. No.
No?
Never got underglow.
Oh, well, then it doesn't count, really.
I didn't have underglow. I had vertical doors. I had a Blitz body kit.
Oh, okay.
I had a big wing on the back. Okay. Now, from the front to the doors, the back of the front doors, it was essentially an Eclipse.
Okay.
Body style.
Yeah, okay. I know exactly what car you're talking about. Yeah.
From the back, and then from the doors back, it was much longer. It was more of a comfortable cruiser. Yeah. Than I wanted an Eclipse, and the Sebring was as close as I could get to it. But yeah, I had honestly probably $20,000 to $25,000 into a car that was worth $3,000.
Wow.
All the stuff that I did, the body kit, and I mean, of course, the body kits never fit.
Never.
So I paid a massive amount of money to get this thing to fit the best it possibly could, and then it still looked like crap. I mean, looking back on it, I was like, what was wrong with it?
That's the way it goes. Yeah. That's fantastic. Sebring, Mr. Chevy himself. That's fantastic.
That was my one venture into Chrysler that made me swear I would never do it again.
Right.
Because the car was just so bad.
Do you think you'll ever go back to a Chrysler product ever again?
Probably.
Maybe someday.
Yeah.
They make some cool stuff now.
They really do. And your car is what solidified it for me.
Yeah, I'm a Hellcat guy, obviously. All right, the ZR1. This is the elephant in the room. It's a tiny elephant, but it's a beautiful car. Tell us a little bit about this. Was this a dream car for you, or was this just something that you came across and said, hey, I like this?
This was not technically a dream car, but I had a C7 Z06 before this, and that literally was a dream car.
I tinted that car, right?
Yeah. That's actually how we met initially. So the very first car that I ever attained as a dream car, I had Blackout tinting tint. It was shortly after I started my YouTube channel with that car, and things were progressing nicely that I said to myself, I can go one level higher than a dream car. Like, we'll call it a fantasy car.
Yeah.
And that's where this car came in.
That's awesome. So obviously you've achieved that, which is super cool. This thing is I've driven it. You've let me drive it. It's a monster. Love this car. What is the next, once you've achieved it, you have to set a new goal.
Yeah.
Is there a new dream car in mind, and what is it?
Yeah, so my absolute dream car as of right now is a Lamborghini Huracan Performante.
Okay. Great car.
Yeah.
Really great car. What color would you get?
Green.
Okay. Cool. Obviously, I'm a green fan. Right. That's our colors, so very cool. And I'm a Lamborghini guy, so I'm with you there. Justin, I just want to thank you so much for coming out on this, or I guess we came to you for letting us use your space to film this.
Absolutely.
With the car in the background and sharing all those stories with us. As car people, you and me both can relate here. I think that there's a special place in your heart for the first car.
There really is.
I don't know what it is, but for people that think that a car is more than just point A to point B, that first one matters a lot. So cool. So hopefully the C7 maybe will join us down in Miami for the Blackout Miami shop sometime soon. The GT4 just showed up down there. So looking forward to seeing this thing out in the wild again in the nice weather. Thanks again, Justin.
You're welcome. Thank you.